Coming up on this episode of the Prompt First, Ask Later podcast.
Why can't AI be more than just slop? Right now, we can tell AI slop, but we're pretty much to the point now where AI can surpass slop.
Hey, it's the AI guys from Spedge back with you with another episode of the Prompt First, Ask Later podcast. This is going to be kind of part 2 of what we did last time, AI in pop culture. We talked about movies and their effect on our society today and the philosophical ideas behind those. We didn't really get to music or any other ways that AI has infiltrated, if you will, pop culture. So I just thought we'd just dive in, guys. And again, Joseph Kim and Sagar Pandya is with us with Spedge. And so let's talk a little bit about music. So I want to start off with something that I wanted to mention last time. And there is a Christian rock group that is totally AI, and they have done amazing things. Well, actually, they haven't. A guy has that has taken this idea and he's created a whole Christian hard rock band that does music, and they're doing concerts and all this other stuff on video. And now they're moving that into a live type of performance. I think it's going to be on screen, but they have 3 gals that are the members of this group, but they're producing great music. And it's really professionally done. And I didn't know it was AI until I saw a post somewhere that said, hey, I heard that this group is all AI generated. And so I started doing some digging, and sure enough, I found a little news clip about the guy that created this. And the whole thing is AI generated, but it is super impressive. And so I'll start there, give you that perspective to kick off. What about you guys? Have you had any experience with this type of thing with music?
So what's happening in the world now is that machines are able to mimic what humans have been able to do for a long time really well. And it's done through just a natural language interface. Example for today, it's one of my buddies' birthdays today. So I went on one of those AI music generator apps, described him in a prompt from all the details about him. He's a big fitness guy. He runs marathons. He's just funny dude, like awesome guy. Right? Shared a little bit about the work that he does, his family life. I've known him for about a decade. And I told the AI to write a rap song about him, and the theme and the type of music that I want was like the late 90s, early 2000s hip hop from the West Coast. If you think about like Ice Cube and Nate Dogg, Snoop Dogg, all those guys. So that type of sound. And it was $8 for the monthly membership. And this song in like 32 seconds made a rap song, lyrics that rhyme, like unbelievable. And it's just at the fingertips of what's possible in 2026. So I can only imagine as these models continue to improve, as the costs of the models, as you all are seeing the big debate right now on closed versus open source models, right? That cost will continue to go down. What does it then mean to have creativity? Is it the person with the most original type of prompt, or is it someone that can amplify human efforts with AI and be AI assisted? I really don't know the future that we're heading down, but I sent my friend the song. He was blown away. He's like, this is incredible. Where like 3 years ago, you wouldn't be able to do this stuff. There was a service at the time where humans would do that for you, where you'd pay a human and they'd make the song, and they would take them like a week to do it, to record it, to go through revisions. And here I am in 32 seconds with the machine. The app I'm talking about is called Suno, and apparently their AI models were trained on copyrighted music. And I think they did a large settlement with one of the large recording companies out there. And I think that recording company now owns a piece of this. So is that a telltale sign of the future? I don't know, but it blew me away. Joseph, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, as I mentioned in our last episode, I'm more attuned with AI as it relates to movies, but the music experience I think that I first had was that, remember that song that was put out that was made to sound like Drake and The Weeknd? I think it was like 3 years ago or whatever, and it was remarkable. Like everyone thought it was actually a long lost track or something like that, a collab by Drake and The Weeknd. And so that really struck me at that time. And the fact that you could generate haiku, if ChatGPT can generate haikus and poems, but just by putting a few keywords and prompts, then how much more difficult is it to add music to that? Of course, this is a huge IP issue growing both in the music industry and the movie industry in terms of what does it mean to have real people versus AI generated. And so this is a debate that is unfolding, in real time. I'm reminded of going back to TV. I'm reminded of Star Trek: The Next Generation when Commander Data, the android officer who physically can do anything a human can, but better. And he's putting on a concert. I don't know if anyone's watched this. This is my nerd side coming out again. He's putting on a concert and he's playing the violin. And he just stated very matter-of-factly that it's technically perfect, that he makes zero mistakes and it's technically perfect. But he acknowledges that it doesn't have soul of some sort, that there's missing soul. And so that's going to be the differentiator. But what does that mean, right? Soul as it relates to expressions in art. And is that even hackable as well by AI to convey that element of soul into music and art and the such? Using an analogy, it's funny now when we note like AI in writing, like emails or documents or something like that. You know how we tell if it's AI? If it's too perfect.
Yep.
If it's grammatically perfect. Isn't it ironic that that's how we can tell it's AI, because it's not muddled in language, it's not grammatically awkward? Okay, well then that's not AI. But if it's grammatically perfect, we don't like it because it's too perfect. It's conveying the idea too comprehensively. So we have to watch for that as well. But I think that's an analogy for music and art and stuff like that. It's not about technical perfection anymore because AI can do it.
I was just also thinking about the possibility. Obviously, it's probably a possibility right now, but what if a computer made a song using a dead singer's voice legally with permission? So is that touching on the creepy side of doing things? What if they made new Elvis songs, for example, or new songs from other people that have passed on that are very, very accurate and very, very good songs, but still, is that delving into the creepy side or the side that we don't really want to think about? I think if my research is right, only Tennessee right now has a real law so far that's called the Elvis Act that really applies to recreating voices and everything like that, would resemble people that either have passed on or current artists for that matter. So we're getting into the legality side of it. But overall, getting back to what you said, Joseph, about the soul part of it, and those that write songs, those that perform songs that have soul, is because they've lived it. It's because they've had the personal experience, the heartbreak, the joy of a new child being born, or whatever the emotion is that they're writing about. I think that's where the soul part comes from. The same with an artist who paints and who does photography, everything like that. They put into their art, their craft, their life experiences, which adds to the performance or the creativity of what they're doing. And so I don't know. What do you guys think? Can that be duplicated? Can
If you heard a
eventually that
song
happen?
or a group of songs, I'd be curious if we did like a blind hearing and you had to choose which one's the AI and which one's human, I would bet it would be extremely difficult and challenging right now to identify that. So we're now entering a world where human creativity, even though the original intent was soul, the AI models are trained off of things that have already been done in the past. And the fact that a record label is a stakeholder in an AI music app, Suno. I just remember that Netflix, Joseph, you probably know this, Netflix bought Ben Affleck's AI startup for like $600 million because it has a technology that a little different where it helps. It's human assisted post-production. The intent is not to completely replace the humans. So I wonder, Ken, to your point, for the folks that have been deceased that are coming back, in my mind, if as long as it's the estate of that person or that artist to control as much of their likeness, it's nostalgic for people. Like there are some artists that I used to listen to. I'm more in like the hip hop space, but Notorious B.I.G., they're coming back and they're using his voice to recreate new songs and it sounds exactly like him. So it's this question of what if or what's possible. So you have that. I've seen in movies where, Joseph, I don't know if you've seen this on social media, but there's people that use AI to recreate alternate scenes and alternate endings in movies as well. I'm a big fan of Fast and the Furious. And I've seen so many of these clips where instead of the Paul Walker, the main character, instead of him driving his usual Nissan Skyline, he's driving a convertible Volkswagen Bug or a tricycle or some other bike, and it looks really good. It's post-production, everything is there. So I think
Well, have
we're
you seen
entering an era
you saw
where
the fight. You saw the fight between Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt as well, right?
I saw that, yeah, and that looked unbelievably real. You couldn't
Yeah,
tell
yeah.
that it was AI generated, like the shadows. So we're entering this world in this era now where it's just these questions of what if get answered. Does that what if
Yeah.
question need to have soul and emotion, or does it just need to give people a sense of some other alternate universe where things happened because of AI being able to recreate stuff in a different universe or different
Yeah,
world?
I mean, it's interesting because this touches on a philosophical level as we're talking about what is soul in terms of interaction with art. And then on a broader sense, what does it mean to convey humanity? So for music, as you were pointing out earlier, Ken, and for art, why can't AI be more than just slop? Right now, we can tell AI slop, but we're pretty much to the point now where AI can surpass slop. Not in full length movies or anything like that, but like to your point about that song, Sagar, that you had generated for your friend and stuff, if you pay just some amateur musician, it probably is an equivalent level, right? So there's that philosophical level, but then there's some technical questions of, well, then how do we gauge humanity? Do we need the equivalent of the Blade Runner, like Voight-Kampff test, where we're testing for replicants in art or replicants in language or test taking or what have you? To our point about right now for emails, if the email is drafted a little too perfectly, we automatically now we have our own form of Voight-Kampff test where we suspect it's AI because there's no mistakes, there's no spelling errors.
No more M dashes, no more using the word quietly or real or the forced negative that happens. It's not about the sky,
Exactly.
it's about umbrellas,
too perfect. Our Voight-Kampff test, ironically, like to check for replicant emails, is errors.
It's intuition.
Bad grammar.
It's errors and intuition. 100%. It's too perfect.
I mean,
too
if
polished.
the grammar is perfect, then our Voight-Kampff thing says, no, this is a replicant email.
Yeah. I get a couple of those, a few of those every day, man. I can see. You can totally just tell.
We have clients that send us emails, that are like a little too perfect.
Who you are if you're watching.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean,
but it is too perfect. Yeah.
It's like we mentioned this in our last episode, but almost need to have like a captcha of like, are you human as it relates to art? And maybe there is some way in which there has to be another layer of technology that conveys this was generated by a human being. And that in a marketplace sense, that in itself is going to have its own higher level of value versus it's kind of like, synthetic diamonds, for example, right now.
Good point.
You can have these perfectly created synthetic diamonds lab created synthetic diamonds that chemically and physically are the same but better,
identical. Yeah,
much cheaper, but people still
less
want the real thing.
Less mistakes.
Exactly. And that want the ones that are flawed. A flawed real diamond produced over centuries and centuries of regular good old fashioned earthbound pressure is worth so much more than a perfect lab grown diamond that is decut and et cetera, about diamond, 4Cs. So I wonder if there's some way that there'll be some sort of grading system, proof of human, like a CAPTCHA or a Voight-Kampff test or something.
I think generally just the world we live in today, this is just an observation, wondering if you both notice. It's that saying, they don't make them like they used to anymore. And I totally noticed that when we have to replace something in our house or even cars, or my biggest thing that I noticed was the quality of printers, HP printers, just how much lower quality these devices are. They're just very plasticky and they just don't last as long. And same thing with like homes. I have a friend that bought a house that was built back in like 2005 and in Northbrook, here in the Chicago suburbs. And it's got really nice furnishings and it's quality. The tile work and all the other millwork that was done, there's detail. And they've renovated parts of it because they wanted to replace and redesign and make it their own home. And you could totally tell the parts that have been redesigned, even though they use someone that is known for good quality work, just the hardware and the parts and the availabilities right now in 2026 is not the same as it was 20 years ago in 2005. So I wonder, are we headed down a path of lower quality and human stuff stays vintage and they don't make them like they used to anymore? And are they humans that aren't born yet that will be Gen Beta, Gen whatever that comes after this year, next year, when they're grown up in 20, 30 years from now, are they going to lose the opportunity to really experience this organically made songs or things or art because a lot of it is just so inundated with AI generated stuff where the human generated stuff is maybe a very small percentage of it because you talk about economies of scale. It just makes more economical sense just for an AI to do it versus to pay a human to do it because you're going to get 90% or greater, maybe better than what humans can generate. I don't know. So I don't know how like the soul and the emotion of stuff that's digital outside of a song would continue to be captured in the decades that we are now entering with this transformative technology that humans have built. I just don't know the answer.
Yeah, I do wonder, I'm only saying it somewhat tongue in cheek though, but I do wonder if this idea of proof of human is going to become a greater aspect. Like I think I mentioned in our last episode about using blockchain and this thing that Sam Altman is pushing about with WorldCoin as a way to identify actual human beings versus agents that are going to be essentially roaming cyberspace. And I don't know if how real that's going to be in terms of actual adoption and implementation, but something like that, I think, is going to have to be added, especially as agents have increasingly more autonomy and are kind of roaming both in cyberspace, but then also in our physical world, specifically like car shares as they roam around. Also in a military sense, the latest news about autonomous drones is really becoming a big thing. Who's responsible if something goes wrong with that? But proof of human, I think, is going to become increasingly, as it relates to the art world, but just really anything, going to be a bigger factor.
And I wonder, because last time in our episode, we talked about what we do. And Sagar, I think you brought up the fact that when we work with clients, we sometimes have to spend a lot of our time doing counseling with people, if you will, on the whole concept of AI and the whole possibilities of things that it can do with these items of art and music and all these other things that are being created with AI. Is that adding to the skepticism, or is it helping with the skepticism of using AI in business?
Look, I think a healthy dose of skepticism for anything is always good, but I will tell you that the AI industry has a massive PR problem right now. And there's lots of folks that are like against data centers right now. And that's just a topic of conversation. Lots of social media posts.
Are you talking about from an energy consumption?
Yeah. And it boils down to the point of coaching and having to help customers think through AI acceptance. But AI has a PR problem right now. We're not, as an industry, they're not doing a good job of communicating the actual benefits of it. There's a lot of misconstrued information that's out there that's not validated. In my opinion, lots of folks that don't really know how this stuff works just make decisions on stuff, which I get it. Everyone has a perspective and a mindset on how things are in the world. And skepticism, like I said, is good. But half our job now is to educate and elevate people. The number one question I get whenever I do a speaking engagement about AI is the environmental impact from a water standpoint. How many bottles of water is each ChatGPT prompt? It's a very hard question to ask. And I usually answer the question with a question to say, all right, where did you learn about this and why is it coming up now? What do you know? What have you learned? And I try to unpack it because as a technologist, for me, I know how closed loop data center water systems and cooling systems work. And it's recycled. It doesn't necessarily always take fresh water away from communities. Does that happen? Absolutely. But it's not normally the case everywhere. So I try to use those questions as a coaching moment to educate folks. And there are lots of people with lots of different levels of sophistication around technology, not just AI in specifically, that in companies, when the mandate, sometimes it's called a mandate, sometimes it's called a recommendation, other times it's a self-growing momentum inside of an organization. There's always a wide range of folks that some say, yes, we're excited, others that say we're skeptical, we don't know, and that's why I wrote this book, why I talk about it in the AI Culture Blueprint. Half our job is education and awareness. And until we can address that inside of companies, it doesn't matter how much money you spend. It does not matter how much you try to brute force your way into getting AI adoption. When you read headlines and you make up your own mind and your own judgment call on stuff without knowing how it truly works, and you don't have anybody guiding and leading you, makes the job a little bit harder. So it's an interesting time to do this work because we truly have an opportunity to change mindsets of people, but it requires patience and understanding and coming from a place of curiosity so that we can answer questions without, I hate saying mandating. We never want to mandate AI. We want to encourage it. and let it grow organically.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you guys this though. By nature of what we do, we're AI apologists, but is it all just misperception? Is it all just real PR, or is there some substance to the concerns? Because I wonder if that might be there's a PR problem in one sense, and there's a perception problem in another sense. But are there legitimate concerns from the wider public perspective that should be taken seriously, should be considered?
I think so. I think giving powerful technology and tools to people without proper training is definitely a risk. In the States,
Mhm.
as of this recording, there's regulation that's being pulled back a little bit to allow innovation to move as fast as possible, to allow the US to continue to lead AI across the globe. It's more of like an AI race. So there's that dynamic. There's this dynamic around environmental impact. And is it really impacting communities? It is. It's not founded on just a lack of evidence that this isn't going on. It's absolutely happening. But it's also happening because of the demand of the tools because people want to use them. So, Joseph, there's always a headwind and a tailwind that's happening right now that has an unstoppable force meets an immovable object. Like that's kind of what's happening in the space right now. And I think you're spot on by saying we're AI apologists right now. And I think the reason for that is because the technology adoption, unlike other technology that's come out in the last 50 years, the adoption for this is just happening so quickly. It's not giving society a chance to mentally catch up to the change that it's causing. And because of that, the severity of the conversation is just greater. It's louder. It's more apparent. But
Yeah.
I believe there are considerations that people in positions of decision making need to consider, especially around safety, judgment, bias, all those things. I just don't know if we have the right people in the right places to help society as a whole, regardless of what country we're from, make decisions so that safe AI usage can be understood, and that there's not a world where you hear these stories, AI becomes sentient and self-aware, and it determines humans are in the way of it achieving
Yeah.
its goals. And the only way around that is to get humans out of the way. Right? And there's so many movies around that stuff. So
And
Joseph, I
we
think
circle back.
there's a lot to
Yeah.
be said there, man. There you go, back to the movies.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think we should underestimate the debate, so to speak, and the concerns, and those should be taken seriously. There are enough insiders who are ringing the alarm that gives one pause for thought. So going back to pop culture, because we don't want to just make this like this philosophical thing necessarily, but going back to pop culture, I think that's why there's this continuous tension in movies. I think portray it the best, but whether it be music or what have you, between the possibilities of AI and the dangers and the traps of AI. And that's been a tension throughout the past 40 years or so of movies. And I think that's going to continue on. And I think that debate and that tension is caught on to just popular consciousness. And although data centers, it's funny, in a partisan age, data centers opposition to data centers seems to be a kind of a unifying topic for a lot of the general voting population.
I think so.
But I do
It's
wonder
just a
if
hot
it's
topic
also
of
going to.
conversation
Yeah.
right now.
I'm sorry?
I think it's a hot topic of conversation.
It
Right?
is.
Everyone's talking about it, right? And the impact of it.
But I wonder if AI in general is going to become more partisan. I don't necessarily mean strictly politically partisan, but it's going to be like, there's going to be pros and cons, and it's just going to be a philosophical divide, not just technological, like the gun debate about guns. Highly impassioned views on both sides of that debate in terms of what that is. And it's just different kinds of values. Vaccines, COVID. I wonder if AI is going there. Maybe data centers is the one exception right now. But I wonder if there's going to be continuing cultural divide that starts happening that often got reflected in some movies preemptively, but we'll see more and more. And it's not necessarily political. And that's why I'm using the word cultural, because there's a lot to wrestle through.
And I think one of the things that we are trying to do at SPEDGE, and that is to, first of all, we want to educate people on how this works, what we do with it, how we put up safeguards to make sure your data, everything is safe. We focus on that a lot. And Sagar, you yell about that a lot with all kinds of different people, whether you're speaking or speaking with clients. We want to make sure we have the safeguards in place to make sure that your data is safe. And we work extremely hard to make sure that the data is secure and that it's safe and that nothing gets leaked out and things like that. That's what we're all about. And I think we have to educate people about that. And we've got to make sure that it's regulated, that we have safeguards in place, and that we want to make sure that we're instructing people on how to use it correctly and make it beneficial as opposed to something that's just throwing money at something that's not going to work. And I think that's why we're here to do these types of things, to tell people about, yeah, AI is here. It's here to stay. It's affecting our pop culture, but also it is a huge help. And we've seen it working with clients and seeing the benefits that they can see after they find out what we can do and what AI can do and how it can really benefit their businesses. And so as we kind of bring this segment to a close, I know we went all over the gambit today, talking still about movies and music and other things like that. Who knows where it's going to go from here? We don't know. We don't have the crystal ball, like you said, Sagar, to predict where things are going to go. But we do know that at Spedge, we're here to help. We're here to educate. We're here to help you to grow using AI. And we'd love to be able to have a conversation about it. I'm going to put down the link in the comments below of how you can get a hold of us to talk about how Spedge can help your business to move forward, to take over those, as you've said, those mundane things that people do each and every day so that they could be more creative. And we'd love to help you. So this is the Prompt First Ask Later podcast. We're here to educate. We're here to have some fun occasionally, but we also are very serious about making sure that your data is safe, and we want to help you to move forward in your business. So guys, as always, thank you so much for your insights. And I know we could go on and on and on about different things like this, but I just appreciate your insights and you guys' knowledge. I learn something every time that we gather together and talk. And so thanks again for the time today.
Thanks, everybody. See you on the next one.